What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're reacting to an ESPN breakdown and debate around a huge NFL matchup between the Seahawks and the Rams, plus some big picture talk about quarterbacks, coaching, and what really decides games at this stage of the season. Before we jump into the react, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Matchups between these two teams this year. We are in for a very special Sunday evening. In November in LA, Sam Darnold threw 4 picks in the game. But even so, Seattle was right there with a chance to win it at the end. Jason Myers, down 2, had a 61-yarder on his foot as zeros hit the clock. As you see, it was wide left, and the Rams got the win. Then you remember the Thursday night game in Week 16, one of the most memorable games of the year. That touchdown from Puka gave the Rams a huge lead in the fourth quarter, but Rashid Shaheed turned everything around with a punt return touchdown. Seattle winds up storming all the way back. They eventually win it on a 2-point conversion in overtime. And so now these teams meet again Sunday with the winner headed to the Super Bowl in what will be the first playoff game in NFL history between teams that had 2 games decided by 2 or fewer points during the regular season. In fact, I'll take it further. Shefty, this is a graphic you asked for on Monday.
Yes,
and
I
then
did.
Because we had the Sean McDermott breaking news, we never got to it. But I'll let you point out just what has happened these last 2 seasons between these teams.
Greeny, I had it queued up on my phone because I want to get to it today. You were ahead of me. You beat me to it, but there it is. Take a look at what's happened the last 2 seasons and the last 4 matchups between these 2 teams. They are separated by 2 points and 10 yards. You know what that tells me? That tells me on Sunday there's a real possibility that it'll be decided on a singular play that somebody makes and somebody doesn't. And somebody's going to go to the Super Bowl and somebody's going to lament the fact that they didn't make that play, but it's going to come down to a play or 2 at the end of the game because that's how closely matched and that's how even these 2 teams have been in the past.
And so usually we feature the quarterback matchups, and we certainly will get to them, Stafford on one side and Darnold on the other, but it also is a matchup of, I think you could say, the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL this season. Puka Nacua on one side, Jackson Smith and Jigba on the other.
These 2 receivers have played the best this NFL season. JSN will be a huge part of Seattle's offense because that's where Sam feels most comfortable in every portion of the field. He's versatile. He can go over the middle. He can beat man-to-man, especially when they get in the red zone. They're going to go after him. And then on the Puka side, we talked about this last week with Devontae Adams, Puka, and Matt Stafford. It's like having 3 quarterback minds on the field. But Seattle defense, if you were watching, newsflash, they're going to test the middle of the field with Puka Nacua. Here you're going to see a dagger concept against their cover 2. You got a through route inside of him, and now he's going to run a 20-yard crosser. Boom, big play. Next, you're going to see him now in the slot. Again, they're going to test your middle of the field when you go 2 safeties open. Same exact area of the field, different play concept, same result. Catch and run from Puka Nacua and Matt Stafford. Lastly, we're going to go back to that dagger concept again in overtime. You're going to see through route from the slot, Puka, big dig over the middle, catch over the middle, and run turns into a touchdown. For them, Puka's incredible in the middle of the field because he understands the windows. He sees the defense the same way that Matt Stafford does, and Matt Stafford can make any throw at any given angle, and most times without even looking.
So over the course of the 18 weeks of the regular season, I probably had more people at this desk say at one point or another, the Rams are the best team in the NFL than any other. And the truth is that over the course of the last 6 weeks or so, they haven't been. And Dan, the defense is the reason.
What stands out to me early is how close these 2 teams really are. When games keep coming down to 1 play, 1 throw, or 1 missed kick, it stops being about talent and starts being about execution under pressure. That's why moments late in the game matter more than anything else. And that's where quarterbacks and play callers really get tested.
Can we put the numbers up? Cindy, I know people are saying to yourself, the offense hasn't really fallen off. From weeks 1 through 12, the Rams defense was elite. They were allowing 16 points a game. They were holding opponents to just a little over 300 yards. You see it there, 311. Since week 13, Dan, they've allowed 10 more points per game. They've allowed over 50 more yards per game, which is a substantial difference if you are home wondering, well, how big a difference is that? That's a monstrous difference by terms of NFL standards. So I'm not worried about the Rams offense. They have the #1 scoring offense in the league. But why has their defense taken this step back, and what does that mean?
Yeah, one, they've tackled very poorly. It showed up again this past Sunday night against the Chicago Bears, but that's been a huge issue for, let's call it, the last 4 to 6 weeks. The other thing is the secondary just has not played well out on the perimeter. The corners played good for the great majority of the year, and then there's been a little bit of a revolving door at certain positions, and they just haven't played sticky enough coverage. Now, they turned the football over a couple times last week. Durant has the pick. Cam Curl, I thought, was sensational all game, but it's really the outside players. I think they're a huge key in this game. How they cover corner-wise against the receivers, JSN, Cooper Kupp, is going to go a long way to determining how well that defense plays. But I'm telling you, tackling, this is one of the worst tackling defenses that we've seen in the last month or so in the NFL versus one of the best tackling, if not the best tackling defense in Seattle. The Rams are going to have to tackle a lot better to play a better brand of defensive football.
It's the number one scoring offense in the Rams against the number one scoring defense in the Seahawks. History says advantage defense. This late in the playoffs, when the number one scoring offense plays the number one scoring defense, history says the defense almost always wins.
Yeah, and I'm going with the Seahawks here. I feel confident about them, not only because of what Sam Darnold has to play like, which I'm confident he will. We saw it at the end of the last matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, but for the same reason you're saying. They have the defense here. Their test will be there because Puka, Devontae, Matt Stafford, they have been playing lights out. They're almost impossible to stop.
I think the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl. These are the two best teams in football. They have been the best two teams in football this season. I would say this. I think this game will come down to Clint Kubiak versus Chris Shulo, the offensive coordinator of Seattle versus defensive coordinator of the Rams. Sean McVay, Mike McDonald, they're going to have their battle. They're each going to win their moments. I think how settled in Sam Darnold can get in this game early matters. If Sam Darnold starts shaky and is not playing good, clean football, that's a recipe for disaster for Seattle. And then can they get him out of it? If that's the case, is going to be a huge challenge.
I like the Rams. Shefty doesn't make picks, but give me a final word.
In a season where there have been so many great games, I think that the last time that these two...
The talk about the Rams' defense dropping off feels important. Even if an offense is elite, defense usually decides playoff games, especially late in the season. Poor tackling and shaky coverage can completely flip a game. And when you're facing a disciplined team like Seattle, those mistakes add up fast. That's why the Seahawks defense feels like a real advantage here.
Teams played over a month ago was probably the single best game we had all year long on a Thursday night. And the Seahawks came from behind and prevailed. And the Rams carried that with them, and they have been waiting for this matchup. All that game determined is where this upcoming NFC Championship game is. The Seahawks know they can beat the Rams. The Rams know they can beat the Seahawks. We see how closely these two teams have matched up. One game, one play. We'll see how it works out Sunday.
Seattle has eight non-offensive touchdowns this season. 5 of them on special teams, 3 of them on defense.
There we go.
One of them
Shaheed.
happened week 16, Shaheed, when they came back and beat the Rams by 1 point.
Right.
The Rams cannot give up a cheap touchdown that they don't make Seattle offensively earn.
You remember they fired their special teams coach after that game, and then they've given up some trouble on special teams in these playoffs as well. So we'll see if that makes a difference. Remember, the Rams are also coming off a Sunday night overtime game in Chicago in frigid conditions. Seattle has been home. They have an extra day of rest. They played a comparatively easy game on Saturday.
And the Rams were in Carolina the week before.
Right. So, I mean, the path to get here has been a lot easier for Seattle, and that's what they earned with that win on that Thursday night. I want to get a sound off in here. Interesting people saying interesting things. I want you to hear from Ben Johnson, outstanding coach in Chicago, at his end-of-year press conference. And even after a very successful season, he is not resting on his laurels. Listen.
There is no building off of this. We go back to square one. We're back at the bottom again. And that's really all 32 teams. If you feel otherwise, you're probably missing the big picture. We got to start from scratch. We got to start from the fundamentals.
That seemed to really resonate with you. The first thing he said, you loved it.
This is more important to me than anything that he accomplished on the field this year. He gets it. He understands it. Chicago, don't be Washington of last year that has all those comeback wins, and it jades exactly who you are. This was a football team that, because of the magic late in game, it overshadowed some of their deficiencies. I think the great thing that you walk away from is you got a great coach, and you have a really up-and-coming, promising quarterback that you feel great about. Can Ben Johnson take the Caleb Williams that he had oftentimes in the fourth quarter, and get them to show up in quarters 1, 2, 3. If they do, they're Super Bowl contenders next year. But his understanding of, no. We are rebuilding this thing from the ground up again. It's a higher floor that we're rebuilding off of. But I cannot love what Ben Johnson said more.
To me, clearly, it's the defensive side of the ball where they have to improve. What you can't count on is, what do they have, 32 takeaways or whatever the number wound up being.
And again, the comebacks.
That's what you can't count on. Well, and part of that is that their defense, they're coming back. The defense was bad, but
The Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams discussion really hits on mindset. I like the idea of not getting comfortable and going back to fundamentals, even after success. Comeback wins are exciting, but they can hide real problems. If Chicago can clean things up early in games and not rely on late magic, they could take a big step forward next season.
Opportunistic. Usually those things turn around. You're going to become bad and not opportunistic, and now all of a sudden your season falls off. They should spend their entire offseason or whatever resources they have, the majority of them,
and they will,
to building the defense.
And they will.
I think they're in great shape, personally.
I think they're in great shape as well. And even that mindset, to Dan's point, is what the difference maker is with Ben Johnson and why we were so excited about him in last year's coaching carousel. When you look at what he's been able to do with Caleb Williams and his team, you know he's going to get buy-in from the team. That this is something to build on. He can say that all he wants to. That is the mindset he needs to have. But this year was absolutely an opportunity to build on. And for him, for Caleb, where he can get better is still playing within structure. He's so great outside the pocket in impromptu plays, but you really get the benefit of Ben Johnson's offense when you learn to play between the tackles and in timing and in rhythm.
Let me bounce this thought off you. And I know that I've heard so much they're a candidate for regression, and I understand the reasons why. I've seen the numbers. I know why people are saying that. But I also think we're always looking for who's going to be the next ones. Who's going to be the next ones? So what has the standard been in recent years? It's been Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. If you had to bet on someone who have the traits of a young Andy Reid and a young Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he could do a whole lot better than Ben Johnson, who has kind of taken this offense to a different place, right? Andy Reid took the traditional West Coast offense and morphed it into something kind of his own. I feel like Ben Johnson has done that too. Patrick Mahomes brought a ridiculous skill set. I mean, the kind of thing that almost no one has ever had in history, and then ultimately turned himself into a great fundamental quarterback with that. If Caleb Williams can take that step, I don't see why this couldn't be the next iteration of those two guys.
Oh, yeah, and I think this could be the next power in the NFC. Because don't forget, Ryan Poles, the general manager, has done a good job building a roster. He fortified the offensive line, Shefty. He's going to fortify that defense, or at least make that attempt to. I think the next step for the Bears, I truly believe this, the next step for the Bears is going to be, can you get Caleb to just truly understand misses? If he just gets out of his game some of those head-scratching misses that showed up still too much this year, it's a rocket ship, and I truly believe it'll be an NFC power for years to come.
All right, we're going on here on Get Up. We have a message from our buddy Will
Overall, this segment shows how small the margin is at the top of the NFL. Seahawks versus Rams feels like a game that will be decided by one mistake, one special teams play, or one big moment from a quarterback. Defense, discipline, and preparation seem like the biggest differences when teams are this evenly matched. At the same time, the coaching conversations remind you how important structure and long-term thinking are, especially with young quarterbacks. Talent alone isn't enough if the fundamentals are in. Let me know who you think wins this matchup and what you took away from this debate. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL reacts.